Coast don't love Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Death Row. Y'all don't love us. Y'all don't love us. Well, let it be known then.
Right after I heard Tupac got shot, and I was so weak, I damn near fell over. I immediately flew to Vegas, and I walked in the room, and I seen him laid out on the bed with all kind of tubes in him, and his mom came over to me, and she grabbed me, she held me up, and she said, "Baby, you got to be strong." And I went and sat next to him, and was whispering to him, telling him I loved him, and to hold on, and he was gonna be okay. And even in that moment, his mom was thinking more about me than herself, and showing me how to love.
Welcome to Spill Hood, the spot where the streets meet the real talk. After years of staying quiet, Snoop Dogg is finally speaking on one of the hardest losses the rap world ever faced, the passing of Tupac Shakur, and he's breaking it down in true OG style. Snoop opens up about the hurt, the politics behind the scenes, and the truth about what really happened that unforgettable night. This isn't just another story. What he reveals flips everything people thought they knew. September 7th, 1996, a date the West Coast will never forget. Tupac Shakur was struck multiple times in a Vegas drive-by. And 6 days later, the world lost one of its strongest voices. But here's what most people never heard. The real details about those last days between Pac and the man who was right beside him from day one, Snoop Dogg. For almost 30 years, Snoop carried the weight, the questions, and the pain over how everything ended, and now he's finally ready to speak on the brotherhood, the rumors, and the heartbreak that still keeps him thinking late at night.
Tupac come to Death Row. He like, "You gotta step your fly up. You gotta get your hair done, your nails did, like the players in the Bay."
To understand how deep their bond really went, we gotta roll back to 1993. A private event for poetic justice was going down. Energy was high, and Snoop was buzzing in the game with Dr. Dre, while Pac was already stamped as a force in the industry. Snoop says he remembers the moment they first locked eyes, a moment that kicked off a connection neither of them expected. What started as a simple cipher, just two artists trading bars in the corner, turned into a spark neither of them expected. That real, recognizes real type of energy hit instantly. And after going line for line, they stepped outside. And Pac did something that locked in their bond for life. He introduced Snoop to his first blunt, marking the start of a connection that went way deeper than music. From that moment, a real brotherhood formed, built on loyalty, long nights, and pure creative hustle.
Took it as if I wasn't down with him no more, as if I was side busted, as if I was scared. Death Row looked at me as like a trap.
They shared cars, studio sessions, and countless moments grinding their craft. Pac became like a big brother figure, teaching Snoop how to control the stage and pushing him to sharpen every part of his presence. Then comes 1995. Pac ended up locked up after the Quad Studio situation and the legal accusations that followed. And the industry suddenly went silent on it. People who used to be around disappeared fast, leaving Pac isolated. That's when Shoegate Night stepped into the picture. But here's the part many never heard. It was actually Snoop who pushed for Pac to be brought to death row. Snoop urged Shoegate to bail Pac out because he believed Pac was the missing piece that would make the label unstoppable. And when Pac touched down at death row in October '95, everything shifted fast. The label exploded with energy. Within months, Pac dropped All Eyes on Me, the first double rap album, selling massive numbers in the first week and later going diamond. And when Pac and Snoop linked up in the studio, they delivered the anthem, Two of America's Most Wanted, a track that showed the whole world what happens when two real giants stand side by side. Huge.
I always felt when Pac died, it was because Snoop could have stopped that whole thing. I mean, because like I said, Snoop was a Crip. Pac offended some Crips. Doing some gang shit, some dumb nigga gang shit, really.
From the outside, it looked like Pac and Snoop were running the whole rap scene together. But according to Napoleon from the Outlaws, things behind the curtain weren't as smooth as people thought. Pac's arrival at death row completely shifted the energy inside the label. For years, Snoop had been the face of the team, ever since Doggy Style dropped in '93 and moved over 800,000 in the first week. But the moment Pac walked in, everything changed fast, not because he was trying to take over, but because his talent and drive were impossible to ignore. Napoleon explained that Snoop never tried to step aside. Pac just naturally pulled the spotlight with that intensity only he had. Pac even influenced Snoop's whole style, pushing him to step up his look, keep his hair fresh, nails clean, and carry himself like the sharp players in the Bay. On top of that, Pac schooled him on creating music quick and staying locked in. While other death row artists took hours to finish one track, Pac would finish a whole set of songs before anyone completed a single verse. That non-stop work ethic changed Snoop forever, and even today he says Pac's spirit still lives in the way he creates. But as 1996 moved forward, the East Coast versus West Coast tension started getting dangerous. What began as media-fueled gossip was turning into real pressure in the streets. The 1995 Source Awards pushed things to another level when Suge got on stage and threw a shot at Puff, leaving Snoop in a room surrounded by angry New York crowds trying to play peacemaker. Snoop later explained why he moved the way he did that night. He realized they were deep in Madison Square Garden territory, outnumbered and surrounded, so he decided to keep it strategic instead of turning it into something reckless. But when he got back to the West, Pac saw the situation completely different. Prison had changed Pac. He came home fiercer, on edge, and ready to stand against anyone he felt had crossed him.
Yeah, I got my little cousin Snoop Dogg in the house. He'll come up here and rap. Before he could give me the mic, Tupac grabbed the mic.
That 1994 Quad Studios incident, where Pac was struck multiple times, left him convinced that Big and Puff knew something was coming and never warned him. In Pac's mind, staying silent in a moment like that broke the code of the streets, and Snoop watched his close friend shift into a different version of himself. When Pac recorded Hit 'Em Up, Snoop felt the impact instantly. To him, it was one of the boldest and most disrespectful diss tracks ever made, and Snoop wasn't fully on board with that direction. He warned Pac that moving like that would bring a whole lot of heat because strong figures exist in every neighborhood, not just the West Coast. But Pac was locked into his position, and nobody was talking him out of it. This tension became the turning point that set up the most heartbreaking chapter of their brotherhood. A chapter that ended with Snoop whispering "I love you" to his unconscious friend in a Vegas hospital, knowing he might not get another chance to make things right while Pac was still fighting for his life. But before we reach that painful moment, we have to break down the situation that pushed these two brothers onto opposite sides of the same storm.
Pac, his security, me, my security, Suge, and a couple of his homies. This time I go to the airport, my security walking with me. Suge like, hold up, they can't roll. They gotta catch a regular flight. My Rolls Royce right here, Pac Rolls Royce right here. Go down the stairs, Pac go down. I go down, I'm like, Pac, you going to Vegas to the fight, cuz? A nigga like, that's the last thing I remember from cuz.
There were things that went down just days before Pac was struck, moments Snoop says still sit heavy on his mind. This is the fallout that shifted everything. September 1996, the MTV Video Music Awards in New York City. That trip became the moment that cracked the bond between Pac and Snoop, and it all started because of one interview. Snoop stopped by Angie Martinez's show on Hot 97, the biggest hip-hop station in New York. When Angie asked him about Big and Puff, Snoop said something he thought would calm the tension. He told Angie he respected Big and Puff and that he'd actually be open to making music with them. In Snoop's mind, he was trying to slow down the violence that was already putting people in danger. He had recently been fired at while filming New York in the city, and he was tired of seeing people get hurt. He wanted to create music, not watch more funerals happen. But Pac didn't see it that way at all. Back at the hotel, Snoop's uncle stepped into the room with some news that shifted his whole mood. Pac felt disrespected. In his eyes, Snoop, his closest partner, was showing.
When he played Hit 'Em Up the song, I didn't like the song.
Did you feel like it was
I didn't
too
like
much?
it. Right. I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Then Snoop's hotel phone rang. It wasn't Pac directly, it was Napoleon from the Outlaws delivering the message. Pac refused to come upstairs to grab what he needed himself. He didn't even want to face Snoop at that moment. Pac didn't come himself. He sent one of his people instead. And in the death row world, that said everything. The bond they once had was clearly cracked. That same night, Pac hit the club and even pulled a Biggie record off the turntable, showing just how fired up he was. And Snoop knew that energy was aimed straight at him. The next day brought one of the most tense moments Snoop has ever talked about. They had to fly back to Los Angeles on a private plane, and normally both of them traveled with full security teams. But this time, Suge told Snoop's security they couldn't board. They had to take a commercial flight home. That meant Snoop was about to sit on a 5.5-hour flight with Pac, Suge, and the whole death row squad. Completely alone, no backup, nothing. Snoop grabbed a knife and fork from the meal tray, pulled a blanket over himself, and sat quietly in the back of the plane for the entire flight. Every minute felt heavy. Nobody spoke to him, not even a single syllable. That silence felt louder than any track ever recorded, and it showed just how deep the tension had gotten. When they finally landed in LA, Snoop tried one last time to speak to Pac. That moment ended up being the final conversation they ever had while Pac was still alive. Snoop simply asked if Pac was heading to the Tyson fight in Vegas. Pac gave him a cold nod and kept walking. Days later, Snoop was at Warren G's house when the news broke. The Vegas incident had happened, and everything changed in an instant. Suge BMW was lit up with bullet holes, and Pac had been struck. And ever since that night, people have been pointing fingers at Snoop, claiming he either knew something or could have stopped the situation. Actor and comedian Faizon Love, who used to hang around Death Row Studios, even made some wild accusations back in 2017.
Pac, Snoop. Nick, Pac have a cigar, and he split that motherfucker, gut it, and he fill it up with.
Love claimed that since Snoop was a well-respected figure from his neighborhood, he could have stepped in after Pac and the Death Row crew confronted Orlando Anderson, a Southside Compton figure, at the MGM Grand. But here's the truth. Snoop wasn't even in Vegas that night. He skipped both the Tyson fight and the Club 662 after party, events every Death Row artist usually showed up to. Some people tried to say Snoop's absence looked suspicious, but others, including former Death Row security head Reggie Wright Jr., defended Snoop, saying he probably would have been in serious danger if he had actually been there. Things got even more explosive when Suge Knight made accusations in 2025 from behind bars at Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility, where he's serving a long sentence. Suge claimed Snoop knew about the incident ahead of time, and even suggested Snoop put money down out of jealousy, a claim with zero proof but plenty of shock value. Suge also alleged that Warren G had a walkie-talkie connected to the Death Row security channel, and that Snoop was at Warren G's place listening when everything unfolded. According to Suge, when someone on the radio said, "got him," that was somehow evidence Snoop was involved. Snoop shut all that talk down instantly, posting on social media and calling those accusations nothing but false rumors aimed at dragging his name through the mud. Snoop clapped back online saying, "Mad because I own Death Row and I see the lies." But here's what's actually confirmed. The situation was carried out by members from Southside Compton who were seeking retaliation for the MGM Grand fight. In 2023, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis was arrested and charged in connection with Pac's passing, and he claimed his nephew Orlando Anderson was the one who fired the shots. There is zero real evidence connecting Snoop to any part of that situation. Yes, Pac and Snoop had tension in those final days, but having issues with someone is nothing close to setting them up or wishing harm. What happened next is what stayed with Snoop for life. The hospital, the final moments, the words he whispered, and the years of regret that came after. When Snoop heard what happened, he rushed to Vegas immediately. No pause, no doubt, just instinct to reach his brother.
When I get back to the hotel from doing the interview with you, my uncle come upstairs and he say, "Tupac is tripping." I'm like, "What you mean?" He say he talk.
His first stop wasn't even the hospital. He went straight to Suge's house where Pac's mother, Afeni Shakur, was staying. The scene was unreal. Suge, who only had a minor injury from a fragment, acted like it was nothing. He was telling everyone that Pac had survived worse and would bounce back like always. In his mind, Pac was unstoppable, a fighter who couldn't be taken down. But Snoop knew the streets too well. He understood when something was truly serious. The drive from Suge's place to University Medical Center felt endless, every traffic light stretching out like hours. His mind was racing, and deep down, he feared this time was different. And he was right. Every turn on that drive, Snoop's mind was spinning. He couldn't stop replaying their last talk at that cold moment on the runway when he asked Pac, "You going to the fight?" And Pac only gave him a nod, no handshake, no warmth, just silence. And now Pac was fighting for his life. When Snoop finally walked into the hospital and saw Pac laying there with tubes hooked up, it hit him harder than anything he ever felt. This wasn't a scene from a movie, and it wasn't some rap tension that could be fixed with a conversation. His brother was in a real battle for his life, and nobody could do anything but hope and pray. What happened next showed the power and strength of Afeni Shakur. She pulled Snoop aside while he was breaking down, and instead of blaming him for anything that happened between her son and the world, she showed him nothing but love and grace. Think about that. A mother standing over her child, watching him struggle to breathe, surrounded by machines and uncertainty. She had every right to be angry, to demand answers, to point the finger at someone, anyone, but she didn't. Instead, she reached out to comfort Snoop, reminding him that despite the tension in those final days, Pac still saw him as family. Snoop later said Afeni was an incredible woman, strong, wise, and full of heart even in her darkest moment. The grief could have broken her, but she held steady, not just for Pac, but for everyone standing in that hospital room trying to make sense of the pain. Afeni told Snoop straight up that Pac loved him, that she loved him too, and that she wasn't stressing over the tension they had before. That moment right there showed what real strength looks like. Not acting tough, not pushing anger, but showing love while everything around you is falling apart. Afeni pushed Snoop to go speak to Pac, telling him, "My baby loves you. My baby never saw you weak. Fix yourself up. Tell him you love him."
And it's Muta. Muta's one of the outlaws. He like, "Pac wants some weed." I'm like, "Tell Pac to come get the weed." And hang up. Another phone call. It's Pac. "What's up?" "Hey, Muta finna come get some weed from me."
She gave Snoop the space to let his guard down, to be real, and to say everything that needed to be said, even if Pac couldn't respond. Snoop walked into Pac's room alone. No cameras, no entourage, no distractions, just two brothers, one fighting for his life, the other trying to hold himself together. For around 20 minutes, Snoop leaned close and whispered words of love and apologies to his unconscious friend. He's talked about this moment in multiple interviews, and every time he tells it, you can hear the weight in his voice. The regret, the loyalty, the pain of knowing these might be the last words he ever said to Pac. Snoop has shared what he whispered. "I love you, and I hope I didn't upset you with the things I did. I thought I was doing what was right."
You know niggas in LA don't get mad, they get even. So, you want a real Pac story? That's my Pac story. Pac would be alive today if he had stayed allies with Snoop and not cross Snoop.
He told Pac that everything between them was cool, that it was still West Coast forever, and he apologized for the Hot 97 interview, for trying to bring peace when Pac was focused on standing firm in the conflict. Snoop explained everything, even though he knew Pac probably couldn't hear a word, but he had to say it. He needed to get that weight off his chest, needed Pac to know the love never faded, no matter how rough things got. Snoop talked about their very first meeting at the Poetic Justice Party, that first blunt they shared, the studio magic when they made two of America's Most Wanted. He reminded Pac of the good moments, the brotherhood before the tension, the creativity before things got messy, the loyalty before distance stepped in. But deep down, Snoop felt Pac's spirit slipping away. Even though Pac's body was still breathing and the machines kept his heart going, Snoop sensed his brother wasn't really there anymore. The pain hit him all at once. The tension they didn't fix, the time they lost, the conversation they should have had earlier. It was too much to hold inside. When Snoop walked out of the room, he headed straight to the bathroom, got sick, and collapsed on the floor for nearly half an hour. This wasn't for cameras, wasn't for attention. This was pure, real heartbreak. Snoop had been trying to stay strong, but seeing Pac like that, knowing their last real moment together was cold instead of loving, broke him from the inside. And once again, Afeni stepped in. She came in, helped him up, helped him breathe, helped him pull himself together. Her strength while watching her son fade was something Snoop said he would never forget. Years later, in interview after interview, Snoop still talks about Afeni with deep respect, calling her a queen, a real one, a woman who showed him what true strength looks like even when life was falling apart around her.
Machiavelli, all eyes on me. He frontlining. I backed up. When he got on, we was frontlining. Now I'm backing up. I'm double dutching, because I got a baby.
Yeah.
I got a wife.
Yeah.
Don't got.
Right.
I got shit to live.
6 days later, on September 13, 1996, Tupac Shakur passed away from his injuries. He was only 25 years old, just 25. Most people at that age are barely figuring out who they want to be, but Pac had already shifted music, culture, and millions of lives. His impact was so powerful that his name would live on long after he was gone. The news slammed into the hip-hop world like a shockwave. Even with all the tension, all the back and forth, everybody felt that loss. Biggie was crushed, Diddy was shaken, and even people who clashed with Pac understood the industry had just lost one of its strongest voices. For Snoop, the pain came with another layer. Guilt, not guilt over the shooting because we already cleared that up. There's zero connection there. The guilt came from something deeper. Snoop couldn't shake the weight of knowing their last real conversation was cold and distant on that airport runway. He wished he could have fixed things before Pac slipped into that hospital bed. He wished they had cleared the air while Pac was still conscious, and he carried the hurt of knowing that trying to make peace with the East Coast is what created distance between him and his brother in the first place.
Like, this either the moment you niggas gonna kill me, and we gonna get some clarity in this air. We got a 5.5 hour flight. I ain't got no security. You niggas ain't feeling me right now. This is how my life is based anyway.
Did you feel like Suge felt the same way?
Snoop has been carrying the weight of how things ended for decades. That kind of burden doesn't fade. It grows heavier with time. Every year that passes, every moment that reminds him Pac isn't here, it hits again. He wishes he could pick up the phone and hear Pac's voice, joke with him about their early days, or watch both of them grow old and wiser together. That empty space never filled. It just stayed part of him. In his 2023 sit-down with Big Boy, Snoop admitted that their fallout remains one of the biggest regrets of his entire life. And the truth is, he knows he'll never shake the pain of not being able to fix things with Pac before time ran out. Every interview where Pac's name comes up, every September 13th, every time two of America's Most Wanted plays on the radio, it all pulls Snoop right back into that hospital room, back to the words he whispered, back to the weight of everything that could have been. Snoop explained that Pac wasn't thinking clearly in those final days. He was deep in the storm of the East-West tension and moving with a mindset shaped by pressure and survival. Pac had shifted from neutral to on-site, from wanting unity to feeling like he needed to stand against anyone he believed had wronged him. Prison hardened him, the streets shaped him, and death row amplified that intensity. And when you break it down, the split between Snoop and Pac came from two different paths colliding. Different priorities, different situations, different stages of life. Snoop was fighting a serious legal case at the time, had a wife and a child at home, and was trying to move into a new chapter. He wasn't looking to be on the front lines anymore. He was trying to grow into the dog father, not stay the young wild one he used to be. He had already seen what the streets could take, how fast everything could get snatched away.
Like it was you buying more problems, cuz. Like, you're buying problems. Gangsters is everywhere.
And he wanted a future. He wanted to live long enough to watch his kids grow up and build something that would outlast the drama, outlast the noise, outlast all the conflicts surrounding him. Pac didn't have that same foundation Snoop had. His extended family was death row. His brothers were the outlaws, and his entire purpose was the message in his music. He was all in, front line, no backup plan, no slowing down. And maybe that's exactly why his legacy shines so bright today. He gave everything he had, held nothing back, and lived every moment like it could be his last. But that's also part of why he's no longer here. The difference between Snoop and Pac in those final days wasn't about loyalty or who cared more. It came down to survival choices. Snoop stepped back because he wanted to live longer and protect what he was building. Pac pushed harder because that's how he felt he needed to move. Full force, no breaks, legend-level intensity. Both mindsets made sense based on where they came from. But only one of them made it out of that era alive. Pac's Outlaws crew hasn't always shown Snoop love over the years either. Napoleon especially has been vocal, saying he believes Snoop was jealous of Pac. And look, you gotta understand their perspective. These were Pac's day ones, the ones who stood with him through everything. They saw Pac push Snoop to elevate, to sharpen his style, to rise to a higher level. And from their angle, they feel Snoop never showed enough appreciation for how much Pac looked out for him. In April 2023, Napoleon even claimed Snoop felt some type of way because Pac stepped into the spotlight so fast. He pointed out that even decades after Pac's passing, Snoop can't sit down for an interview without Pac's name coming up. And honestly, that's true. You can't tell Snoop's story without telling Pac's story. Their paths are locked together forever. That moment right there shows how the energy shifted once All Eyes on Me dropped. Before that album, Snoop was the biggest name on death row, the top artist, the front runner, the face of the whole movement. But after Pac came home and the project blew up, people started seeing Snoop as the one who rolls with Tupac, and that had to sting a little, especially since Snoop was the one who pushed for Pac to even join the label in the first place. But that's how the game works. Sometimes the very people you help elevate end up passing you. It's not personal, it's just how the industry plays out. Napoleon also called Snoop out for his comments about Hit 'Em Up, saying Snoop's later criticism sounded more like leftover jealousy than real concern about the beef getting out of control. Napoleon's point was this: if Snoop truly didn't like the track back in '96, why didn't he speak up then? Why wait decades before saying he wasn't feeling it? It's a fair question. But the situation wasn't that simple. In '96, Snoop was moving through a dangerous landscape. He couldn't openly disagree with Pac without looking like he was switching teams or being disloyal during a heated moment.
You know what I mean? I can say like Pac did come to death row and just like took a shine from a lot of people. Because I remember how he tried to make it seem like Snoop said, I sat back and let Pac shine. That let you know right there, nah, bro, you ain't sit back, but he just was coming and shining. And you just happened to just lay.
Sometimes you have to wait until time passes so your words don't get twisted or turned into another conflict. Then in October 2023, Napoleon took it even further, accusing Snoop of throwing more subtle disrespect at Pac than Pac's actual rivals ever did, claiming Snoop used fake love while slipping in quiet shots. That's a heavy accusation, basically saying Snoop pretends to honor Pac while low-key belittling him. When you really break down what Napoleon is saying, it sounds more like protective energy than an objective breakdown. The Outlaws lost their leader and their brother, and they're still guarding Pac's legacy decades later. That's loyalty, that's love. But that same loyalty can make them see disrespect in places where Snoop might just be speaking honestly about the past. And if you actually listen to Snoop's interviews, really pay attention, what you hear isn't jealousy at all. It's genuine love mixed with heavy sadness. Sure, Snoop has spoken on some of Pac's choices, especially the intense mindset that put everyone around him under pressure. But even with that, Snoop has been one of Pac's biggest defenders in the entire industry. At Pac's 2017 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, Snoop gave a heartfelt speech honoring his friend. He talked about their wild memories, from parasailing together, to Pac introducing him to blunts, to the way their chemistry lit up the studio when they made classics. Snoop has always praised Pac's talent, calling him one of the greatest artists hip-hop has ever seen. And he's openly admitted that Pac's work ethic and creative drive changed the way he makes music forever. After all the interviews, all the years of reflection, and all the stories finally laid out, one thing becomes clear. The truth is way more layered than the rumors. Snoop never betrayed Pac. He was trying to be the calm voice in a situation that was spinning out of control. His Hot 97 comments weren't about switching sides. They were an attempt to cool things down, an effort at peace that sadly went the wrong direction. Yeah, there was tension, and yeah, Pac's arrival at Death Row changed the entire energy of the label. But through everything, Snoop stayed consistent. He loved Pac, he misses Pac, and he still wishes they had one more real conversation to fix things before time ran out. That's the real story. Not jealousy, not betrayal, just a complicated brotherhood between two of hip-hop's greatest. A bond cut short with too many feelings never spoken, and too many moments that can't be replayed. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe to Spillhood, and I'll catch you in the next one.